Alright, let's go ahead and talk about what all the cool kids are doing. That's skipping a jig. Let's talk about the maximum break setting of this reel. Now, because of this reel's price point, some people who may be new to fishing and new to fishing a baitcaster might be picking this up. So it might be their first reel that they're learning on, so they don't have the casting motion down, they don't have the education of the thumb, all that kind of good jazz. So they're likely to start out with the break setting at max. And I'll never use spool tension, so I have a little bit of side-to-side spool drift. And we're going to go ahead, without thumbing, blow up the reel. Now, we just caught a fish on a bare hook. I was just seeing how this handled 1/8 ounce with no weight on it.
Gentlemen, ladies, and anyone in between, I welcome you all, and our goal today is to find out just how many smiles per mile you should expect to get for your $70 worth of premium Chinesium plastic, carbon fiber, stainless steel, and brass fishing tackle direct from the mainland. And we have in front of us today the brand spanking new Piscifun, what's the name of it again? The Spark, the Piscifun Spark. Go ahead and fish with family. And here we go, my friends. Here is the most beautiful piece of Chinesium bait casting wonderfulment that you'll ever see in your life. This is the brand spanking new Spark Pro. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead now and get an up-close look at this. Wow! That actually feels pretty darn good. Drag set pretty tight out of the box. I'm kind of surprised to see that. A little bit of side-to-side spool play. We have the clicky spool tension adjustment knob. Thank God it's a clicky because it's fairly loose. If there was no click detent, I'd be concerned that it may auto-adjust. Heavily ported spool, which is what you like to see, and something you never see on name brand reels under hundreds of dollars. I wouldn't call it a BFS style, but it's a thick wall. It still does have some weight. We'll get a weight on that later on for you spool weight Nazis out there. It is a linear magnetic brake, so you have the dial that moves this plate inward and outward. The closer it gets to that spool flange, the greater effect the brake will have. One thing that's nice about the design, you don't have to take the side plate off whatsoever to adjust it from min to max, which is something that's lacking in some name brand reels in the $100 price range. Let's see. A fairly lively spool. Let's see. This is brand new out of the box, so I'm not expecting there to be a ton of free spool. And that's what the brake set to max. Wow, that stops it dead. Now, comparing this to my last go with a Chinesium reel, it's been a while. I've ignored most of those companies because I'm just not a fan of companies that I believe are stationed in China, that are manufacturing in China, and they're shipping and selling at full retail pop over here without offering much of a savings. So to be quite honest, I've ignored them. Sea Knight, Kastking, insert Chinesium instant brand here. And I haven't been doing much coverage of them. I've seen other people talk about them, just not my cup of tea. But this one piqued my interest because of the color. That was basically it. My fiance's favorite YouTuber has a cosmetics line called Hollow Taco. So when you look at the color shifting, paint finish, this is why I got it. So anyway, in terms of refinement, right out of the gate, I comparing it to the Kastking Royal Legend, whatever it was, the Periwinkle Fury metallic blue, that was really a robin's egg blue or a flat matte pastel type blue. This feels a lot better than that. That reel had some clicks. You can kind of feel what was going on. Might have been a dud, but hey, it was my hard-earned scratch. I bought it. It didn't feel that great out of the box, and I'm just going to tell it like it is. It also feels better than the Lose Mach Crush. And when you compare reels like that $160 Lose, which I thought was a $99 reel, and it was kind of ho-hum for the $100, there's not much true difference separating that reel to this reel at $100 less. So you have a plastic framed reel. It's a reinforced graphite, and it's glorified plastic. You have a ported spool with a magnetic brake. The Lose Mach Crush had the magnetic and centrifugal brake. More expensive parts. Do they make a big difference? Not all that much. As long as you're an experienced caster, you use your thumb for a lot of things. If you have a good range of linear mags, you should be all right for 99% of what you're out on the water casting and throwing, and the conditions you're casting and throwing into, and techniques that you're employing. In terms of the knobs, you have EVA versus wind grips on, again, that $160 Lose. I like the clicky. I like the drag star. It's got a good feel to it. Very compact. This feels more compact than the Lose. Very reminiscent of that Kastking, only it just feels better. I do like the carbon fiber handle. I like the purple accents. I like the chameleon paint job. I'm a sucker for flip-flop chameleon, going all the way back to the early 2000s when I had some things customized and painted in chameleon. So let's go ahead, after kind of being pleasantly surprised, let's go ahead and crack her open, and then we're going to go ahead and take her out on the water. All right, now that we've gone ahead and made our way inside the belly of this $70 Chinesian beast, let's go ahead and see what we're up against. Very nice carbon fiber washer. Not something I was expecting. Normally they're very papery. This one's actually not too shabby. Nice, large, what looks to be a cupped pressure washer. Top disc for the drag. That's what compresses the carbon fiber drag stack. And a lower disc made of carbon fiber. Again, good carbon fiber discs. Don't appear to be any need for any upgrades there. Kind of a, I don't know. It doesn't appear to be an overly impressively supported pinion gear. Very standard method of support. Plastic yokes. Dual spring for the thumb bar engage and disengage, which is perfectly fine. Looks to be an aluminum or a coated aluminum worm to run the level wind guide. No fancy tapering. And let me grab the spool real quick. This is something that I'm starting to pay more and more attention to. And that's the position of the thumb bar in relation to the spool. It's actually feels a little cramped. Not much gap in width. It seems to be a fairly narrow spool. Should cast like a bullet. You don't have much of an angle, any sharp angles for the line to have to kind of peel off to make it to that level line guide. It's basically almost a straight shot due to the lack of the overall width. So even if your level line's on this side all the way to the right and the line's coming off the spool on the left, it's not that sharp of an angle. I'm willing to bet this thing casts beautifully. Looks good. I mean, aluminum main gear, okay. Not the most durable gear material on the planet for a bait caster, especially if you're smashing hook sets with lockdown drags. Proven in Shimano not to last as long as the brass gears and some of their other higher end reels. But for $70 for weight savings, can't complain. It seems to be a more expensive material to be used other than brass in the world of bait casters. Weight reduction is a premium. This side plate feels a little weighty. And, oh, okay. Our clutch is going to come out of itself, so that doesn't bode well. We're going to leave that there. We have spool support. Let's find out whether or not the diameter of the spool shaft does indeed fit the tolerance of that ball bearing. Daiwa reels that have the bearing on the spool on this side of the frame and on the opposite non-handle side plate do have a bearing or a bushing underneath the spool tensioner, but its bore is wider than the actual spool shaft. It doesn't really ever make contact with it unless it's kind of under extreme pressure. I'm not sure if you guys were aware of that. Damn it. What is going on? Okay. There's also a bearing here which supports the pinion. So, okay. See that bearing right in there? That's for the pinion. Okay. Get in there. There we go. Not an awful design. Daiwa does that on many reels south of $200. And we have what we assume is a ball bearing on the non-handle side plate. Firmly secured. Pocket for that bearing. Should handle load very well. Alright, so it's nothing out of the ordinary. It's nothing mind-blowing. It's just got the paint job and carbon fiber for under $80. We're going to go ahead and spool this up with some Persian line. Probably go with 30 pounds, something or other raid, and go out and see how she fishes. I'm curious myself. I can make a prediction that on the first day of fishing, it will fish beautifully. I won't notice that much of a difference between this and a $200 or $300 reel. It's one of those things that it's down the road. If you're fishing a reel hard, how does it treat you after 300 fish, 200 fish, after its first half of a season? After pulling out a few snags, if you're flipping and pitching 30 and 40 pound braid, maybe even higher, that's where you see reels and their metal come into the foray. So I appreciate you guys for hanging out and checking this reel out. I'm going to go ahead and now cut to being on the water.
Yeah, I forgot what I was saying before, something about Chinesium, and we're going to go and test out this reel. So we're out on our test lake, and we spooled this reel up with some beautiful Pandora multicolor braid that was submitted by Oscar all the way over from Australia. Do me a favor, hit him up on social media, give him a follow. He posts some interesting content, and this braid matches this reel's color scheme perfectly. It's got blue, pink, purple, and it's 15 pound braid. We're not doing much cover hacking today. We're going to be throwing spinner baits ranging from 3/8 down to 1/4, and we're going to throw in some jigs and all that kind of good jazz. So we have a slight breeze coming at us from where you see that rod tip pointed, which is perfect to test the braking capabilities of this reel. We counted 30 clicks on the dial. We went up to 15, so we're midway for its, full range. And yeah, first cast, no drama. You like that. And just as expected, it casts fairly well. We're not taking aim at anything just yet. We just wanted to see if we can make a sidearm cast and have it carry directly in line with the rod tip, which is exactly what it's doing. And now we'll go ahead and see if we can't hit some targets. Throwing a happy little short arm thumping spinnerbait. See if we can get some angry bass to participate. This is a 6.6 to 1 gear ratio. Gear ratio isn't always the biggest factor. Line retrieve in inches per crank is what I'm looking for. I like a slower reel for my spinnerbaits because I like to go like this and really get that spinnerbait to kind of surge forward and then stop dead, kind of facilitating knocking structure when there is no structure to hit. And we can definitely feel what's going on inside the reel. Feels very hollow, feels very plasticky. The anodized coating on aluminum gears are fairly hard, so you kind of feel the gears due to that. No type of lubrication and no amount of lubrication will ever get rid of that. Not in my experience anyway. It may wear in and smoothen up a little bit over time. I wouldn't expect it to much though. But as it stands, it fishes as good as a reel can fish after 5 casts. But spinnerbaiting really beats up reels, whether you're cover hacking or not. Fishing heavy drag settings, so hook sets really put a lot of strain on the gear teeth, and a constant whacking of that handle can accelerate wear. I'm not expecting this reel to blow up anytime soon, to be honest. It feels fairly solid. Tolerances are pretty darn good. First thing I noticed about this reel right off the bat is how comfortable it is to palm and how light and overall weight it is. And we're throwing fairly thin braid and it spooled it up beautifully, very even. You can see there's not much of a gap there, and that same gap is to be found on the non-handle side plate. Can't say that about all reels. Some reels do kind of pile line heavy on one side and a little light on the other, whether it's Dial or Shimano. Saw a little bit of a curl come up and over. Tells me that I'm at the ideal braking for distance in these conditions. A click or two up, I'm willing to bet we'll get that curl out of the line. Drag's fairly tight, but as tight as I want to throw 15-pound braid on. And a little bit of clickety-clack somewhere inside the reel. Might be the level line guide kind of finding its center in its track. There's usually some slop between the pawl and the worm, which is fine. So what if it stays like this for the duration? It might be a fun reel to fish. Very compact, that's the first thing you notice. Very small. Feels like the Revo platforms. It's very lightweight, which is kind of what you would expect out of a plastic reel with an aluminum main gear. That takes almost a full ounce out of the reel. Now, a few casts later, one of the concerns that we immediately dispelled was how cramped the thumb axis is to the spool. and how low the thumb bar sits, which is really nice. The thumbs very, very nicely. One thing I noticed fishing a Daiwa reel and then going to a Shimano SLX, especially when you're down to the one breaking on that SLX DC, is how high the thumb bar was, which made it difficult for the pad of my thumb down here to kind of glide over the spool and prevent an overrun. This, very comfortable. Easy access to the spool. Anybody who's fishing low in the breaking will appreciate how easy it is to get your thumb on top and feather that cast. And we bonked the carp. One of the things that we've learned to use and do in this lake is use the carp as structure. Very comfortable casting reel, without a doubt, hands down, very comfortable. Knobs, they're comfortable. They definitely are. They're not like a flat knob, and they're not like a lot of the triangle tapered knobs that kind of get into your joint. Your fingers kind of wrap around, makes it very comfortable. I can see myself fishing this for a while, not experiencing any discomfort, especially when I'm going like this and really throwing that handle. Now, if this was a poorly braked reel, it would be difficult for me to get a cast parallel to this bank. A lot of times you'll get drift. That drift will send it kind of penduluming off the rod tip from left to right, since I cast over my left shoulder. If the braking is too heavy and doesn't come in at the right time, it'll cause a swing. I'm gonna go for that pocket behind that grass, almost. Just because there's not any structure that we're targeting, we're targeting high percentage spots along the bank. And sometimes you want that curl, sometimes you want that pendulum, but you can do that with your thumb, like I just tried to do there. So if the bait's going to carry on a slight trajectory, if you thumb it, it'll push it to the right. You can see this is what I was aiming for right here, and then this other one right here. Alright, since we weren't getting any love on the thumper, we're going to go ahead and throw a bulky swim jig and work the shoreline doing the same thing as we were before. Definitely tell you one thing that's nice, due to the reel being very compact, it works one-handed very nice. I can easily get to the handle very close to the center line of the reel. Something that's often overlooked, something that I'm not a fan of on the Daiwa Fuego, albeit it's a very good reel. The SLX at 99 bucks is fairly compact. You can get the drag star real easy. This is actually nicer in that regard. All right, let's go ahead and talk about what all the cool kids are doing. That's skipping a jig. And to start this off, I got to mention that I'm not the kind of fisherman that like to have to prepare my reel to skip, so I like keeping the brake setting where it was on the previous cast. And on this reel, the 15 setting, which is dead smack in the middle, is its comfy, cozy casting brake range where you can get long distance without any drama. And we're going to go ahead and see how this 3/8 ounce jig with a Spicy Beaver skips. Now I kind of have to work with what I'm dealing with. I got waist-high grass all over around me, so we're gonna have to backhand this one. And no drama, but it kind of wasn't the right trajectory. Just be patient, because it's not easy to if you saw how I had to use body English to get the rod tip at the right trajectory. Yeah, so yeah, a little drama. That was a piss poor skip, but again, working with what I got. First two were okay. That was better. Again, no drama. So the 15 setting, it does the job without any drama. This reel is a great casting. reel. It really is. And then at the same setting, heard that little overrun clear out, and it still went a long way. Excellent, excellent casting reel. Can't tell the difference between this and say a $500, $600 reel, to be quite honest with you. You kind of know what you're getting with linear magnetic brakes. You really do. As long as they're positioned properly. Some reels, they just, the shuttle isn't in the right spot. All right, next up, let's talk about the maximum brake setting of this reel. Now, because of this reel's price point, some people who may be new to fishing and new to fishing a baitcaster might be picking this up. So it might be their first reel that they're learning on, so they don't have the casting motion down, they don't have the education of the thumb, all that kind of good jazz. So they're likely to start out with the brake setting at max. And I'll never use spool tension, so I have a little bit of side-to-side spool drift. And we're gonna go ahead, without thumbing, blow up the reel. Now, so far, the only reels that can survive that without any backlash, all or virtually none, was the SLX DC. And we're letting this go. Wow, that's not bad. We did not thumb that at all. That's hilarious. That's cool. This is right up there with it. We thumbed that a little bit. Sorry, we couldn't resist. But again, 15-pound braid, which can be a nightmare if you have a good overrun, isn't blowing up all that bad. So you have all those brakes in a shuttle that moves real close to the spool flange. Is doing its job and slowing down that spool. That was a little more aggressive, but let's take a minute, see if we can't get this out. All right, we ain't gonna lie. We trimmed back about, what's that, about 15 feet? Not too bad. We ain't got time to sit there and pick out a backlash for an hour. That was a good one. That was multi-layers deep. All right, now one of the things we want to find out is just how well it throws the light stuff. Now I have an empty Scooby-Doo rig. This weighs a total of, what, 1/8 of an ounce? That's how much the weight weighs. We just caught a fish on a bare hook. I was just seeing how this handled 1/8 ounce with no weight on it. I didn't have the GoPro going. He ate it in his mouth. He ate it. There's nothing on this at all. Look at this. Can't believe this. That's a solid, we'll say it'll go 4. That's a big fish. That's not a tiny fish. Yeah, we'll go 3.5. There was nothing. Thank you. There was nothing. It's this bare naked Scooby-Doo rig. I didn't even, I have my jig from when I blew it up sitting on my wader clip. I have the bag. I was planning on putting a floating worm on. Oh. Smashed it the second it hit the water. And he wrapped himself in the gill plate. Did he free himself? Good. I'm not going to panko bread you, I promise. Ooh, lean. Ew. Good luck, buddy. Down 2. Two more. Two more. Two more. Almost at mid. At mid, minus 2 more. Minus 2 more. Below mid now, we're getting low. Oop.